Hey, RecLess listeners, this is Tom here to remind you that July is right around the corner, which means it's almost Parks and Recreation Month. This year, our friends at the National Recreation and Park Association are celebrating the power of parks and recreation. All month long, NRPA and park and recreation professionals across the country will be highlighting all the ways Parks and Recreation has the power to bring people together, support well-being, and strengthen our communities. Throughout July, NRPA will share stories, resources, and ways to celebrate the incredible work happening in parks and recreation across the country. Park and Recreation Month is a wonderful opportunity to highlight the essential role Parks and Recreation plays in building stronger, healthier, and more connected communities, and we hope you'll join us in celebrating this year. Learn how you can get involved and access this year's resources, like graphics, plug-and-play messaging, sample social media posts, and more at nrpa.org/July. And now, on with the show.
Welcome to Season 6 of RecLess, the podcast making you smarter about the field of parks and recreation. Your hosts are Shane Mize, Jay Tryon, and Tom Venniro, three professional friends, if you know, from around the country, bringing you a surprise guest each episode. This project has made an impact, educates others, and continues to support a growing community. Thank you for being part of it. This is RecLess.
Yo.
Okay, what's going on?
Not much. How are you?
I'm good.
What's up?
Hey, guys.
How you doing, buddy?
I almost wore my RecLess for the 100th episode.
You know, I almost thought about emailing or texting you and saying, wear yours, because Jay's at work. He won't be able to scramble, and then we could just,
isolate him a little bit more.
We'll just gaslight him. Be like, I told you to wear it.
Wouldn't be the first time. Or it would backfire, and I would just have it sitting in my
just
desk.
Right there. Yeah.
And I'll just put it on, and then you'd fail.
I carry it with me everywhere.
Just in case.
Got a Cubs fan today.
Cubs fan.
Great start for the Cubs.
This is going to be a fun guest. This is going to be good. Unlike all my other ones.
We need to get that on record.
Yeah. Yeah. For Hannah, I'm excited about this one. It's the first time I've ever been excited about a guest. We'll see what Hannah does with that. Scares me before all this gets started. Are y'all ready? Welcome to RecLess, everybody. This is episode 107. I got my good work friends with me, Tomas and Jay. Tom, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well. Had a really nice morning. Got to volunteer at my son's kindergarten class.
That's always so much fun. It's chaos, right?
You know what? The teacher, Miss Strecker, had it all down to a science. It was really well done. I got to sit in the captain's chair. They were preparing Mother's Day gifts, and 2 days ago, Melissa said, there's nobody signed up to volunteer. They had a spot for 2, and nobody signed up. She goes, do you want to do it? And I said, sure. And it said, no moms allowed type of thing. Sure. So this morning I get this, I didn't know, she, voluntold me and signed me up. And I get this basically thought in my mind that it's just going to be me in a room with maybe some other dad that I don't know, having to
That's scary.
Converse awkwardly.
Right.
And it ended up being, so I didn't even think the kids were going to be there. And I only did it because I figured I would show up for Jack. Those are limited opportunities. And that's what I thought. But I got there and I was with all the kids 3 at a time, helping them do their thing. It was super cute. And Jack was so proud to have me there.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
It doesn't take long if Hannah used to teach, obviously, and I'd go sit in on some of her kindergarten or first grade classes, how organized a teacher has to be. And you're able to control the moods and temperaments of those 30 kids, and you have to see when one's fixing to bubble up and squelch it before it does, because if you miss it, it's a tipping point for a whole 45-minute lesson for sure.
Yeah, they were all on their best behavior.
Jay, how are you, buddy?
More power to them.
Yeah,
I'm good. I can't complain. I don't have any fun stories from this morning, but I am just looking forward to the weekend. I got a tournament, and then I'm heading out to Nashville on Sunday for SMS spring meeting.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And the new Regents?
We have one new regent, and
Okay.
you guys are both familiar. It's Courtney Weinstock.
Oh,
Nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, y'all
So,
really classing it up now. I
so
mean,
we're excited to
they've
get
gone
her
up
on
a couple
board.
levels from when they brought you on.
Yeah, it always varies depending on like how many people are stepping away or if we need to add more. And we lost one, and so there was one open spot, and Courtney is joining us, and I'm definitely excited. I think we're all excited, but I've known Courtney for a few years, and she's great.
She is great.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't interested because I wouldn't have had a shot up
Not just
against
Courtney.
Courtney. So, yeah, Jay, real quick question, not to throw a dig at NRPA, but the last time we were in Nashville, we were in pods. Is SMS going to be in pods this year, or are you going to be all
No,
together?
we'll be in a same room pretty much all day, Sunday, Monday in meetings, but don't think we're going to have any pods this time.
Pod free.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the pod, I've got a guest I'm super excited about. I kind of got a question that just came to me last minute. I know that shocks y'all. I've already told my guest I'm terrible at this, and they have agreed. They have already concurred with that. Our guest knows all of us as well, so this will be interesting. Very well. But I was thinking today about legacy. And we're getting to that time in our careers where we're not new professionals and we're not anywhere near the start of our careers, and we're closer to the end of our careers than the start of our careers. And I sometimes see those things where they ask a kid to write their obituary or whatever, so they kind of show, what did you want to have an impact on in your time and those exercises. And I think they're very interesting. And I think our guest has an incredible legacy that y'all will agree with as soon as we bring them on. But when you're thinking about not what people are going to say about you, but what you want people to think about you in your legacy or your impact on our industry, have you given it much thought? And if so, I'm not saying you could fully write an obit for it, but what are the things that you kind of hope for people will say about you or think about you when you hang them up? And I can go first if y'all would like. I think for me, I hope that they say I had an impact, on the industry in a good way. Not so much a bad way, but in a good way. And that I made a career that was fun for people to participate in, and that we had some fun while we were doing it. And I looked at government differently. I kind of looked at the roles that we had differently. I've always tried to be a little outside the box, and I looked at service as service. We're not slaves to these residents, but we do get to serve them. We have this incredible opportunity to provide a quality of life to this community and educate the appointed and our city management, city officials, and showing what parks can really do for a community. I think there are a lot of departments that we know of that can come off stale is the only word I'm thinking of right now, but I think it can be taken for granted in some ways. And I think all of us have poured into our departments that we've worked in and the teams that we've worked on, the communities we've worked in, to try to show that parks can be more than what people thought it was and can have an impact far beyond the budgetary amount or the couple of presentations or the couple of projects we've been able to do in some of these places that really can have a wide lasting quality of life component that people feel connected to when they think of that community. And I hope that in some way I've contributed that in some way.
Can I suggest that we project the impact on the other individuals? So I'm just going to give Jay's what I think people will think of Jay's, and then I'm going to go back and give what I think people will think of Shane.
That's a much better question.
That would have been a really great way to do it.
Hannah, edit that out. Just
I agree.
Kill all that. Yeah,
that'd be more fun.
It would.
And use one word. That's it. With no description.
Tomfoolery.
Tomfoolery. Oh gosh, the Godfather, or the grandfather, I guess.
Yeah, there we go.
Too. Okay, so I'll go, and Shane, I don't think that any of us are going to disagree with what you said.
Yeah,
I would.
I can.
I mean, I have to, right?
That's the show.
It's hard. It's hard to disagree with that one, but I'm interested to hear Jay's counterpoints.
I'd find a way.
Let's do it.
He mentioned Capra.
Yeah.
I look at this profession with so much respect and joy that I have for it. I have so much respect for the people who do the work we do, the people we get to serve. There's a big responsibility that comes along with that, and I don't think that a lot of us, we don't take it lightly. And so it's important to understand that the impact that we have in the people's day-to-day lives is it could be greater than what we really maybe think when we're just running an event, and at times you might feel this is an event. We've got people here, they're participating in an egg hunt, they're meeting with the Easter Bunny, whatever it may be, but that may be the only chance they get to do that. Or it may be an alternative to maybe another opportunity that they can't afford or that's not close to them. So, I don't take it lightly, the experiences that we provide these individuals in our community. On the flip side, I want people to at least see that I have that passion and that the way that I did it was a way that both the community and our fellow professionals can respect. Everybody's going to go about it a different way, their own way. We talk about it A to Z. What's in the middle is going to be interchangeable. But that said, there are individuals out there who you might see, and they are amazing professionals. But the personality side of it, the person side of it, that doesn't project. I'm sure you have someone in mind like that. And I don't want to be that. I want to be someone that an individual sees from this person is not just a professional who cares about what they do and gave so much time and effort, but also as a person that they could relate to, someone that they could say was, maybe a little bit, had some kind of piece or impact on their life in some way, shape, or form. So I look at it from both sides, from both the community service piece and also the profession. And we talk about mentorship all the time. We talk about those trees that individuals have. And yeah, if even one person could say that I helped them along the way, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, there are people that spend their whole career changing tires, and that's an admirable thing that we need. But I think in some ways we get to pursue that service just like that, but impact, and I think it's farther reaching in some ways. That's what we hope. When you talk about the Easter event, that may be the only Easter event that kid is going to be able to go to. Maybe the only type of gift, a present that parent can afford to do is the free event, and whatever they get, those 12 or 20 eggs, is all that kid's getting that weekend. And yeah, the impact is, I think it's like a ripple. It just continues to go. Jay, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I haven't put any thought into legacy, to be totally honest.
Dangerous in some ways,
Yeah.
but we're
funny.
getting there. We are getting toward that spot, right?
I mean, you can say that just because of maybe like years of service, but I still I don't know. I get uncomfortable when I'm in a meeting or I'm in a room and someone like is praising me for doing something, because it's just, that's what I do. Yeah, that's my job. You know what I mean? And it's funny. I was actually in a meeting earlier this week, and
humble brag.
My director was talking about retiring in the near future, and like this project's going to be, that'll be Jay's thing, and this and that, and you'll be able to do this, and they were giving me some great kudos, and it's just, but I feel uncomfortable with that. Like I don't like that. And I remember when I was in Indian Trail, there were several conversations kind of about legacy there, just because we built it from nothing, and like that's a little bit different. But when it comes to like just overall career legacy, it's not about me, it's about the team, it's about like what we've been able to accomplish. So if I'm looking at it through that lens, I would hope that if I could have like this vision of what someone would say, it'd be about like allowing people to know that like I invested in them, I empowered them to make decisions. Yeah. I looked at their position through that lens to understand them better, led with empathy, things like that. But I don't put any thought into it. I still won't, even when I retire in 10 whatever years it is. Like that's not. You
won't look up and look back and say, look at the cool things I did at Indian Trail, and look at what I've done in Concord, and this place is so much better than it was when I got here, or I got to move the needle from here to here, or whatever. You won't do that.
I think what you're saying is different than what you were talking about earlier, I guess, is like what somebody would say about you. Because like I'm
Sure,
not, and I guess, yeah, like
they will
when I
say that
let,
about you, though, right?
yeah, like, okay, so I guess it's two different topics, though, or I guess two
He
different
did. He found a way to disagree.
He did. He
perspectives.
does such a
Like
good job at it too.
I will occasionally go through Indian Trail, and I'm not there often because it's still 30 minutes away from where I live, and it's, I don't have a lot of reason to go to Indian Trail. But there's been times where I'm driving through, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go check out the park, and I'll drive in the park and be like, man, like,
Right.
flashback of like literally building it from scratch. It's been amazing. But I don't think about, oh man, when it's time to retire, like what that's going to look like, just because I know that that's just like one small thing out of thousands of things that were accomplished that were awesome.
I was gonna say Jay's not going to the Indian Trails parks with a flag with his face on it.
No,
He's
Right.
like
sticking it in
I don't
there, and
want
this is
like
my park. I built this park. Jay, I'm with you. I don't
I
think
don't want
anybody.
credit. Like I truly do not want credit for anything I've done in my career. I want like because although I might have the idea, I might push it forward, I might fight for something, I may be like, hey, let's change this playground to this, or let's build pickleball courts in this
Sure.
location. Like I'm not the one doing it. I may have
Yeah.
had the idea, I may have pushed it forward, I may have fought for it, I may have got the funding. End of the day, like it wasn't me doing it. Like it's the team, it's other departments, it's like the teamwork. Like I guess that's what I'm trying to say is it wasn't me. And it's so many other things that accomplish that. So like I don't know. I'm not a credit guy. I love to see the end result, but like even at an event, like if we're at our biggest event is our parade. We'll have, I think we had 24,000 people last year or year before. But like I'm not running the parade. Like I'm involved in it, but like our team that leads that, like they get the credit, not me, not our leadership team.
Yeah, well, Jay, what you said earlier in the middle of all that was, I think, what what maybe your legacy is that you cared, and that's important. It's a call you have established, and that's I agree with you, and I didn't maybe put it so eloquently, but that's what I hope. I hope that there's a sense that there was a culture of care, and that goes for the community, that goes for the staff, the team members that we worked with. Every year there's different individuals that pop into our lives, and of course, the individuals that we get to connect with and network in this profession.
Yeah. So I'll just wrap up everything that you just said and everything I just said is it comes down to culture. If there's anything
Yep.
that like anyone would ever hopefully say,
Yeah,
it's that I built a strong culture. And it's
I'm
funny
with you.
that that is being brought up because that is one of the classes I teach at SMS is organizational culture. And it's the favorite thing I talk about is
Yep.
culture. I've worked in fantastic cultures. I've worked in terrible cultures. And, it's that topic is very near and dear to my heart. So yeah, if I'm going to say one thing, it's going to be if I can be known for having a great culture.
I'm with you.
No, I agree. I think it's interesting. First of all, there's something really cool about going to a park that you had a heavy hand in designing and creating and funding and fighting for, and just sitting there and watching people enjoy it, and they don't know anything that you had to do with it. It's a really
Yeah.
cool, surreal moment that I work next to a park that we've done that, and we walk out there a lot. Hannah and I walk the trails a lot, and you get to see people enjoying this park system that. And you're right, no credit. In fact, I tell Hannah it's crazy. I think I've greatly improved Pflugerville's park system, but 5 years from now, no one will even know who I am. Like none of the citizens will have known. 2 directors from now, none of the staff will even know who I was. So that's not necessarily why you do it, but you do hope the staff that you had an impact on, the people you had an impact on, say something positive about your legacy for sure, or just about your impact.
Before
Yeah.
you wrap up, I just want to add a quick story about the eyes or the lens of a child, a small child. And it goes back to the experience I had with Jack earlier today. And when we go through my playground or they see me wearing a shirt with the logo, the HP Rec logo, to your point, Jay, it makes me cringe a little bit, but they're 3 and 5 years old, and their response is, Daddy, that's a picture of you, a logo with an H and a P. Daddy, that's your playground.
Yep.
And I try to say, well, it's not my playground, but it's a fun. So I guess my legacy to my children, at least at 3 and 5 years old, is a lot different than than I guess how I would like to see it for everybody else.
Oh yeah, I think we've all been uncles at one time, or big
Yeah.
brothers or something, or just even mentors to people. But my nieces and nephews, when they see any park now, any playground,
It's Shane.
they
Yeah.
ask if it's Uncle Shane's park or playground. Yeah, which is, if that's what I'm known for, I could
That's pretty
wrap
cool.
my head around that all day long. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all ready for the guest? I think this is going to be
Let's do
a
it.
fascinating conversation. And give you some hints here. See if you can guess. Our guest and I was talking to our guest before the show, and I told him how terrible I was. I pulled a bio from like a speaking bio. I didn't even talk to him. I didn't ask for like talking points. Like this all could be wrong. I'm one step away from AIing this at this point. So
Our preparations are a lot different.
So I told her it's a lot different. Okay, so our guest, a former jock, enjoys mountain biking, former college jock that enjoys mountain biking, golf, volunteering at local food banks for the American Cancer Society, and Little League Baseball. They are a huge Cubs and Bears fan. Jay, they do have some academy ties, so that's new, obviously, for me, and they're not from Texas, so I should get 2 points for that. I know both of y'all know him and have incredible respect for him. I think what's interesting is they're known so well in our industry that if you just said their first name, 90-something% of our industry would know exactly who you're talking about. Any thoughts or hints?
There's a lot of first names.
What's their first name?
Well, you're going to find out in a minute. I think this next section will give it away. They went to University of Illinois, where they played college softball there. And then after a stint coaching in college, they worked in Champaign Park District, Bloomington Park District, and Boulder before they started 110 Consulting in 2010. They are the rain to feral sunshine.
Yeah.
They're a new author, and hopefully we can talk about that. They're currently a vendor of mine, which is the only reason she was even interested in coming on this. I'm sure was some fiduciary responsibility she felt like she had. Please welcome the president and principal of 110% Consulting, Jamie Sabbach.
Hey, Jamie.
Hey.
I had her. We couldn't get the logo off, so we taped a.
Had to put a Post-it note on the camera.
It's okay. It wasn't the first time. We've done that before with other guests.
I heard. How you doing?
Yeah. I think we
How
had
are
the
you?
same problem with Farrell actually as well.
That might have
Really?
been. Yeah,
It's a
might have
Yeah,
been
it's
the
a
one.
Colorado thing.
Branding. Jamie, thanks so
Well-
much for being on.
Yeah, thanks, Shane. A couple of corrections there in the
Yep,
bio.
already.
Well, I didn't play ball at U of I, so I coached at the University of Illinois.
Was it Eastern?
Yes. Yeah. Small.
That's my
school.
second guess. Yep.
Yeah.
I went to Western.
You went to Western?
I did grad school at Western. Yeah,
Oh, kidding. You're a Leatherneck.
I am.
explains
No.
a lot, right?
It doesn't it?
Indeed. Indeed.
Jamie, thanks so much for being on with us,
Yeah.
sitting through that ridiculously long conversation. But I was interested in having it because when I think of legacy and potentially your legacy, I think of someone that has viewed Parks and Rec and our impact in our communities very differently than traditional. And I think that's not something you probably haven't heard before, especially with cost recovery services and how they're not the devil. They're actually a good thing for a community to consider. But I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit more, at least at the start, about the new book. So is the Bison Principle?
It's the Bison Principle. Yeah.
And I think I know the anecdote for it, which is cows run away from the storm and get tired more and more as the storm is happening, and they're continually running away and they get exhausted by it. And they ultimately give up, and the rain eventually gets to them at some point. But bison run to the storm and get through the storm quicker and are able to enjoy the fruits of that storm on the other side. Is that the concept? And then how does that work in as it pertains to our industry?
Yeah. Very good, Shane. Yeah. The metaphor. Bison
Like
run
the anecdote,
into.
yep.
Yeah, bison run into storms. So when I moved from the Midwest to Colorado, I was enamored, fascinated by the kind of the majestic nature of obviously this part of the country, but bison have just fascinated me. And I was writing the book, this metaphor came up as a result of a conversation I was having with one of the reviewers. And so I grabbed onto the idea of calling it the Bison Principle, because we right now, as I think you all know, we like to focus on the good and the positive and the bright and shiny new stuff, which is, it's what makes us feel good. That's what makes us human, I think, is we're looking for the things that are feel good. But the reality is we have a lot of systems that have overextended themselves, and they're now struggling to keep their heads, above water. We've got staff that are depleted. We have budgets that are depleted. We've got infrastructure we can't take care of. And so it really becomes an exercise in us facing the storm, right? And having the courageous conversations and doing the difficult work. Because you talk about legacy, our legacy is at stake as a profession. We have systems that have shuttered services. We have systems that are closing doors. We have major municipalities in this country that are on the brink of bankruptcy. And so we can continue to ignore that or do our due diligence and have the hard conversations that frankly are uncomfortable at times. So that was really the kind of the foundation for the book.
It's something people could say, well, yeah, Jamie can say this in hindsight. It's very simple to see, but you were beating me over the head with this years ago when I was trying to do a bond during a COVID stretch. And I imagine at times it's probably a little frustrating for you to probably have some sort of insight where the industry's going and trying to stop it. It doesn't really stop it. It happens. And then they look back at you and say, now what do we do? And you're like, well, I can try to help you out of it. I could have helped you out of it sooner if you were listening years ago. What's that like for someone who, was seeing where the winds were leading us, but it was tough to get anyone in the industry to buy in at that time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I will tell you, and I reference this actually in the book, I grew up in this field. I spent 20 plus years as a practitioner, and the last 16 now working with agencies and professionals across the country, some of which are saying, we want to do this work on the front end. We're fiscally well, and we want to stay that way. Unfortunately, I would say many are, they're concerned. They're maybe even in crisis. And then they're saying, well, we need to fix it. And you say, well, I'm not sure we can fix it, but, Band-Aids only go so far. Now it's a question of stopping the bleeding. I was a 25-year-old sports program coordinator, and I remember a comptroller, our finance director in Champaign at the Park District, say, don't worry about the money. And I reference this in my writing that haunts me to this day, because I hear that. I hear that from professionals. I hear that from elected officials. Well, find the money. Don't worry about the money. And that can be one of the most damning perspectives and opinions that anyone can have, is to suggest we're not going to worry about it, because that's been part of our problem. We're a field that we want to do good work. The vast majority of people that gravitate to this work love social service. They love doing good things for their communities. We care deeply, but we're not honest with ourselves sometimes about what that means. Because if we want to keep doing really good work and addressing needs, not just desires and expectations, but the needs in our communities, we have to be able to pay the bills. And so this dismissive nature and willful ignorance around, I don't want to worry about the money, is hugely problematic. And we're starting to see that. We're seeing the fruits of that lack of interest and dismissiveness to this. I care deeply about parks and recreation. I've been in it for a long time. And I'm really proud of a lot of the good work agencies are doing today and professionals are doing today and having difficult conversations. And I'm really concerned about those that continue to ignore it. Stories only go so far. This whole benefits are endless movement started when I was a young professional, and we've got to quit telling that story. People know how important we are. We've got to shift the narrative a bit. So, some folks gravitate towards this right now. They're like, we understand this is one of the most important things we can be doing, and others will continue to dismiss it. My concern is when the gravy train ends and things look really bleak, then they'll start to pay attention. And that's not when you need to start paying attention.
Now, I want to follow up one more question on the book and then kind of go a different direction. But is that something you've always wanted to do, or what really drove that direction of this career path of going towards writing a book?
Jay, I had no idea I was going to write a book till a year and a half ago. And a colleague, actually, it was a person in one of the financial sustainability classes, believe it or not, the first one in Denver. and said, you need to put this all in a book. And I just dismissed it. And then about a little less than 2 years ago, a colleague said, you've really got to get serious and put all of this stuff in, in a book. So
Okay.
I started it about a year and a half ago. So no, I had no idea I would write a book. I always thought it was something that was way too ambitious. I don't think of myself as an intelligent person, but I feel like I have a lot of common sense. So that was the approach I took to it. And, for years, I was just doing my job, wanting to impact Champaign, wanting to impact the city of Bloomington, Indiana, wanting to impact the city of Boulder, Colorado. And every place I went, I was seeing the same things, people expecting, people wanting, pressure, pressure groups, pushing the system, pushing the electeds, pushing the advisory boards, pushing the staff, and us all reacting and responding. I remember when I was in Boulder telling our executive team one day, I said, the most difficult job we're ever going to have is representing the people we will never hear from and never see, but who are paying the bills. And so all of these kind of lessons learned, the good, the bad, the ugly, as they say, kind of fed the story that I created by way of the book.
We'll be right back.
Hey, RecLess listener, it's Hannah here, and the guys, our professional work friends, are currently locked up in contract negotiations, I guess, and so they've left this mid-read to me. So here goes. Are you a young professional? Are you looking to attend the 2026 NRPA conference in Philly? Well, if you are, we have the perfect opportunity for you. If you'll go to recklesspod.com, you'll see information about how to apply for a scholarship that is sponsored in part by our good friends at Ben Schaefer Recreation. And we are so thrilled to be able to offer this to young professionals. We believe in community, we believe in connection, and we believe in giving back. So if you're interested, the application deadline is July 13th. Don't wait until the last minute. We're going to announce our recipients around July 22nd. Definitely in enough time for you to get registered. So with that, please go to recklesspod.com or follow us on our social medias. We have our links there, and we would love to see your application. Looking forward to hearing from you. And now, back to the show.
Well, and you kind of opened up that transition I want to go to. So when you were working in Boulder, and then, because that's when you transitioned to 110%, correct?
Correct.
What was that? I guess obviously the transition is never going to be easy, going from a position, or at least the industry you've been in for so long, to being in similar role but very different from the consulting side of things. But what made you make that jump? Was there a specific incident or specific situation, or was it something you had been planning for a long time? And then, when you made that jump, like, was it this is definitely where I was meant to be after you've done that for a short period of time?
That's a good story.
Oh, see, I don't know the story.
No, I had no idea I was going to end up as a consultant, but I will tell you, I was completely disenchanted with the plans that I was receiving as an administrator. We hear cookie cutter. I'm not sure it was cookie cutter. I felt like it was just complacency and apathy, and it was, we'll just give you enough. And it's the convention and tradition around how we build master plans. And I'd look at them going, there's no fiscal analysis. It's a wish list. What the community who have come to the table have told us they want is included, but we don't do the math on any of it. And we couldn't take care of what we had. We were in a fiscally constrained reality in Boulder. I had really dove into the data. That's when I really started to take this stuff seriously, when I was with the city of Boulder. And I don't know if Allie Rhodes mentioned any of this. Allie and I worked together, as did Farrell. We were all part of the same team. And we were in a really interesting time. We were in a very wealthy, affluent community that had a lot of expectations, and a government, frankly, that was poor. We'd made a lot of ridiculous, silly decisions over decades. We had a very robust system that we couldn't take care of. So we end up in this fiscally constrained reality. We started to dive into the data a lot more and implemented a cost recovery strategy, if you will. One of the areas that we had to push the needle on was the amount of subsidy we were directing to highly exclusive services, one of which was a master swim program. Interestingly enough, we had a council member who was a master swimmer. So you would think operationally you could react and respond to those challenges, but we were directed that that one increase we were going to propose for master swimmers had to go to the council. And it was politicized. It was because we had a council person who was a master swimmer. Very long story short, I made a presentation. We had a lot of other needs in our community where we wanted to direct resources. We wanted to minimize, limit, if you will, reduce the amount of subsidy to master swimmers. It was not met well. Got into a bit of a contentious conversation. That's probably the most gentle way I can explain it with this counselor. And our council meetings in Boulder started at 6 p.m. and ended at 2 a.m. pretty consistently. I went home, opened the door to the house. There was a shot of bourbon sitting on the counter. I went and sat in the backyard and, basically sipped on that sucker for a while and made the decision to submit my resignation. It was a collision of values, frankly. Yeah. And we all know, you guys have been around long enough to know, a lot of people who are going to be listening know, when your values do not align with the system with which you work, you have three options. You can do what you can to change it. You can accept it as is, or you can go away. And so I chose to leave. And I started the company, and this was during the recession. This was during the Great Recession. So to this day, I reflect, I was either incredibly naive or really stupid trying to start a consulting company in the middle of a recession when government was cutting two primary things, marketing and staff development. The third thing they were cutting was planning budgets. And here I am, thinking about how I'm going to help agencies create plans, right? Strategic plans and so on. So it was a rough go. And that very year, I lost all my parents. I had a mom, stepfather, and my father all died that year I started the company. So it was one of the most challenging times in my life. But fortunately, as time moved on, things got better. Conditions improved for me. And then the company started to take off. I had, fortunately, a very strong network across the country. And I think that helped get some, kind of interest in what I was doing and how I wanted to approach the work.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Jamie, that's obviously a really, personal and a story of perseverance, and you had to stick it out for quite some time, I'm sure, before you felt like you were over the hump and on the path or the direction that you'd hope to be. So, I guess if I was a little curious to kind of keep on that story, if you would indulge, is what was the moment where you felt, or was there some kind of a catalyst where you said, we're there, we're where we want to be, and you said it started to improve, it started to get to where the ideas and everything you were presenting was obviously being valued and obviously being shared, the network piece. So what was there a moment, was there maybe a job where you really felt like this was it, this was the catalyst, and now we're going in the right direction?
I can answer that, Jamie. It's when Pflugerville reached out to her.
That's what it was. Yep.
Like 6 months ago?
She had arrived, yeah. Before that, it was still touch and go.
Took 16 years, but when Shane called, that was it.
Well, and to add a little more context before you answer and give you some time, I had the pleasure of meeting you during the Agents of Change group when they started up, and you were a part of that, and that had to be, I'm trying to think, was that
in Austin?
Yes, so that had to be
what was that,
2010, 20, yeah, that was in that time period probably where you were just getting out of the recession. Mm-hmm. And those events obviously carried on for a while, and that great group of people, I'm assuming that your experience there was also very helpful and beneficial too.
Oh yeah, we have a special, I can't find the words to do justice to the profession that we find ourselves in. This is a special thing to do. It's beyond rewarding. It's life altering, right? It's so many things. And when you think back on all the, lived experiences you have, one of mine, of course, was meeting people as part of Agents of Change, and all of my experiences in Champaign and Bloomington and Boulder and all the incredible people I've worked with over the years. I can't admittedly tell you there was a moment. I think there were a series of moments. I think I have relationships with people I worked with in Champaign when I was in my 20s. I have relationships with people I worked with in Bloomington, Indiana when I was in my 30s. When I taught at Illinois State, Boulder, Allie Rhodes, you all know her quite well. I met with her yesterday. Allie and I are fairly close. And she was bank teller turned park and rec pro turned park and rec director, right? You think about the journeys of just those people that you're fortunate enough to have as part of your ecosystem and your professional universe. It's pretty humbling. There's an incredible humility, I think, that comes with this work. And then I get the gift every single day to work with Farrell Bowler, and Matt David and Alexis Ranke and the team that we have. So there have been incredible milestones, whether it's been a particular project, it's been a particular event, it's been an opportunity to work with somebody amazing, special. I can identify all those as some kind of special milestone in my journey. But I will tell you, when I left Boulder, it was liberating and it was scary as hell, because I was, 80% of small businesses fail.
Yeah.
And I didn't know I really was going to do that. I did it largely for personal reasons, because I could have left Boulder, but I had, I started a new relationship. We had kids involved. And it was the right thing for me to do in the moment, but it was a very difficult thing to do. So as time went on, and you get a job here and people were pleased with it, and you start to build confidence, then you're on to the next, right? And you're on to the next. And so I think it was just it was a series of milestones and series of events that just continued to affirm what I was doing was the right thing to do. And it has been challenging, because I'm not telling people go build stuff, go start new programs, look at best practices. What I'm telling you is, how are you spending and investing taxpayer money, and can you sustain what you're creating? That's the narrative I have. And early on, only certain people would gravitate to that message. Now more are gravitating to it. So it's a really interesting and thoughtful question, Tom. But I don't know that there would be one thing that would stand out to me.
No, and I appreciate that. It's I think anybody's journey, you have to reflect and see where there was success and where there might have been pressure,
Lessons learned.
challenge,
Yeah.
lessons learned, failure. And I guess one quick follow-up question before Shane or Jay jumps in, if you'd be so candid, did you ever feel that you were going to fail? That was there ever a point, if you'd open up on this, if you felt like almost like giving up? Did you ever get to that point?
Yeah, but it was the first year.
Okay.
And it was largely because of personal loss. My mother was diagnosed with cancer. My father and my stepfather died the very same week she was diagnosed with cancer, and then she died a year later. It was a very difficult time. And so I was willing to kind of throw in the towel at this point in my life. And then it just flipped. I think after that all had been, settled and estates had been taken care of, and all the kind of ickiness that comes with loss like that, then it's like the sun started to come out a little bit. Each day got a little bit brighter. But that first year was it was probably one of the most difficult years of my life, for sure. So yeah, I could sit here and say, absolutely not. No, I'm human, and it was a hard time. But after that, no, just kept pushing forward. And I always thought it was just going to be a one-person show. I never had interest in scaling and making it a big deal. I just wanted to go and facilitate, consult. And then,
Yeah.
there were more phone calls and there were more emails, and, and then, the gifts of the rest of the team kind of happened. So
I find it fascinating to start anything. They talk about when you really need the applause. No one would give it to you, right? Because you're just starting, and now you probably get all the applause and cheering for you now that you've made it, and you don't need it anymore. It's like if you could have done it in reverse, if someone could have been there year one, year two, saying you got this, versus getting it now when it's obviously well deserved. I think you're probably the first person I heard talk about how cost recovery wasn't a curse word or a bad word or something that parks has to be afraid of in some capacity. And I think if you would have stayed in Boulder, you probably could have still had that mindset and probably still could have impacted the industry. And maybe I'd have heard you say it at a conference, or, you saying it at a state conference would have convinced someone else to say it at a national conference or whatever. But I think it would be tough to have the impact you have had and are continuing to have on our industry if you didn't go into the consulting side of things. So, two-parter here. This is a Tom special for you. Do you ever look back longingly at your time in government? That's sometimes funny to ask because I think we will focus on the negative things, but I would assume you'd look back at the moments that you really enjoyed in government from time to time. And do you really enjoy or appreciate the opportunity to kind of have the ability to impact or direct where the industry's going through some of this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I miss being in the field. I certainly do, especially when I'm around all the people that I am who are in the field and they're doing the work. I say this at the end of, I try my best to say this at the end of all the classes that I facilitate and lead, which is I have incredible admiration and respect for everybody in this field. Particularly those that have been in it the last 6 years, went through COVID. I was in it at a time it was difficult. It's become more difficult. There's no doubt about it. So yeah, I miss that kind of camaraderie, that sense of connection to community in a more kind of a deeper way. Alternatively, I do feel like my net's cast wide, and I feel like I can have a broad impact beyond any one community or any one group of people. And so there's a gift. That's an incredible gift I've been given, maybe. I remember I had 31 interns when I was a professional, Champaign, Bloomington. And then I had a couple in Boulder, but due to my role, they typically were, more associated with programming and facility management. But I will never forget, I remember a few of them in particular saying, I think I should be involved at, the state level? Should I get involved with my professional associations? And I always said, absolutely, because there's a difference between being committed to your position and being committed to your profession. And I always felt like that was an opportunity to open more doors, meet more people, broaden your network, but learn more about our field, through the lens and the eyes of people from all across the country, if it was your state and all across the state, if you got involved in an RPA, you're going to meet people in different places across the United States. And you had something special in common, but you were only going to make the other person better by way of the conversations you had and the experiences you had and maybe the sessions you sat in and all those sorts of things. So I kind of feel like I gave myself that gift by way of making the decision, taking the leap to go from practitioner to now educator, consultant, advisor, coach, whatever label anybody wants to give me. And those are probably the kindest labels that anybody can give.
Jamie, I know I've been in one of your sessions. I'm sure Shane and Tom have been in sessions before that you've spoken to. If there's a listener that's listening to this that's never been to one of your sessions, is there like one key, and I know this is tough because there's 1,000 things that you could focus on probably, but is there one thing that you think is most important for staff right now to think about when they're looking at whether it's a cost recovery model or the fiscal responsibility of our staff from a programming perspective? Is there, one thing that you would hone in on saying like, okay, it's really important that staff focus on this right now in the times that we're seeing with our economy?
I don't know that there's one thing. I think things I find myself saying over and over again are reminding everyone in the world who's in Parks and Rec that it's not your money. Every day you are privileged, burdened with the responsibility to spend other people's money. And so always coming back to center, which is, am I doing it responsibly? Am I doing it intelligently? Am I doing it thoughtfully? I think that's a good reminder for everybody in public service. And I think sometimes we forget it. And it's not intended to be righteous or, arrogant. It's simply just remember that that's a privilege. Alternatively, remembering, understanding, in many cases, your time, and Shane actually referenced this a bit ago, your time in your systems is finite, yet you're going to be making a lot of decisions that are going to have impacts beyond your tenure. So there's the short-term decision-making and the long-term consequence. And what are those consequences that could actually result? Good and bad. Consequence is sometimes seen through a negative lens, and it's not always. But, every time you do something, there's going to be a ripple effect. And so when you make a decision, when you make a choice, investment, spend, whatever it is you do, are you thinking about what that's going to mean in 20 years, what that's going to mean in 30 years? And that's difficult, I think, for a society that tends to live in the here and now. We focus on today, we focus on the short term, and we forget about the impacts of the choices and the decisions that we make. So those would probably be two pretty consistent threads, whether they're articulated exactly that way or not, in a lot of the sessions that I lead.
I like that of not your money, because I've been in conversations with staff where obviously, when you have a budget, it's divided up by different divisions, and this division, might think it is their money because it's their division. It's, obviously you break everything up accordingly. But even when it comes down to that different line item, it's like, well, that's my line item. You can't have that. But it's the departments. It's, the bigger picture is it may not always be your department or your division's line item. But also that context of it's not still yours. It's still the cities or the counties or the towns or whatever municipality you work for.
Yeah. And the taxpayers.
Yeah.
It's the taxpayers' money. I mean, in the city, the district, the municipality, the system doesn't exist without the taxpayers. You say government exists at the privilege of. It comes back to those community members. And that is, I think, a really good reminder. And at the same time, if it's not interpreted correctly, it can be dangerous, because we'll have, as you all know, you've worked in government for a long time, the misnomer, I pay your salary. It's a combination of a lot of people paying. It's not one small group, and then so we say, oh, well, the taxpayers, and then we immediately align taxpayers with the pickleballers or the aquatic community or whatever it is. They're one small part of the whole. And I think we get sucked into the vortex of whoever we've heard from last and whoever's the loudest at the dais, as opposed to, again, remembering there are a lot of people in our community, some of which never use your services, but they're paying the bills. They may never walk in a facility, they may never participate in a program, but they're helping contribute. Yeah. And so it's always keeping that, I think, top of mind. And it can sometimes just be that little perspective shift that we need to think differently and do differently.
I just had a conversation with an individual here locally about very similar to that, and how, you got school taxes and your property taxes and whatever that may be. And the school's a great example. How many individuals in a community have students that are going or accessing the schools? They may be going to a private school, they may be homeschooled, or they don't have children. Yet everybody's paying into that piece of the pie. And we're no different, but it sometimes is looked at as a lot different. For better or worse, that's our challenge, and I'm sure that's something you hear about. So I want to kind of piggyback off of Jay's question. The taxpayer, there's individuals out there who their jobs don't I always say to people who come and work through our municipality that you really have to understand what you have right now, the benefits that you have. Because for some reason, there are some individuals who have this mindset that I work for a community that I either live in or I'm a neighboring community member of, and I'm entitled XYZ. And they're entitled all of this. Yet what you're entitled to is being paid for by a large group of people. How many other industries can that be said for? So that person, that individual who has whatever job they have, and they don't have health care that's provided by their whatever their profession is, they have to do that privately. And so that's a chunk that's taken out of their annual salary. So I'm going into this to say, do you see those challenges coming? We have rising healthcare costs. Are you looking at that because you're looking at it from lens typically of Parks and Recreation. Organizationally, though, you have, and that includes Parks and Recreation. And I know not every individual is a full-time staff, but we've had that conversation. The taxpayers, I don't know how much they know about the fact that we have full healthcare benefits, and they're paying for that. That's just one of them. I mean, think of just cost of living, the wage increases that we're trying. I'm sure you're battling and grappling with this with a lot of your projects. So I just maybe granularly, are those topics being identified? Are they being talked about because they're going to impact us eventually. The more and more they already are. The more and more healthcare goes up, the more and more cost of living goes up. It's very hard for us to even have a great cost recovery that's going to offset those costs. And those are kind of your administrative costs, not even what we're putting into those programs and those day-to-days.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been asked to do more city council
Okay.
retreats beyond parks and recreation, broad stroke local government, because what we're talking about applies to all entities within local government. Doesn't matter what your structure is, a municipality or a special district, doesn't matter if you're parks and recreation, public works, libraries, police, fire, doesn't matter. These are all realities that every form of local government and frankly, state and fed are experiencing. That said, I firmly believe, and I ask this question all the time, and I have a small sample size, right? There's 10,000 plus park and rec systems. We only work with so many, but every single organization we work with, we always ask, do you believe your taxpayers understand what they're investing and spending on local government services? And then, of course, we dive deeper in parks and recreation. Do they understand how much of their tax bill is being contributed to? And then what's their return on investment? All these things that they get, the acres of, parkland, the miles of trails, the facilities, the services provision, all of that stuff. Do they understand? Largely no. Is it the responsibility solely of the local government? Not solely, but there's a responsibility we have to be educators. And I don't mean that in a patronizing way, helping them understand, informing them. And at the same time, we need citizens to be more invested beyond, I call it the vending machine approach to local government, which is we've consumerized local government. I put in my tax money and I want what I want. That doesn't work because you're only paying a portion of, and most of that money, frankly, is subsidizing land. It's subsidizing your parks and your trails, your open spaces. It's not subsidizing rec facilities and services. So we have work to do relative to helping people understand it. And I think, frankly, the vast majority of people are going to go, I had no idea. I mean, that's my experience. I had no idea. Thank you for telling me. Now they're better informed, and then they can tell their neighbors and they can tell their family. Alternatively, we, I think, just are struggling to understand our lane. Tom, to your point, think about your cost of doing business. Every one of you are in different systems, and everyone who may listen to this are in different systems. Your cost of doing business, though, has likely gone up significantly more than your revenues have. And if that happens year over year over year, what happens to the gap? It gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
How do you sustain that?
Yeah. Yet we say, well, we have deferred maintenance, but we're not sure how much it is, but we have to build a new what? That is illogical.
Yeah.
And I think there's a broad misunderstanding of what it takes to sustain a system. It probably wouldn't hurt, I will say boldly and maybe incorrectly, but I'm going to put this out there, the majority of systems to go, what if we didn't build something new and we put our resources into taking care of what it is we have? How would that change our system? How would that change our fiscal reality? Because to your point, healthcare's costs aren't going up just for parks and rec professionals. They're going up for police and fire and public works and everybody else. Our cost of doing business in local government is escalating. And the jury's out on what's going to happen before the end of 26, depending on what economists you listen to and what storyline you read. Are we going to be in another recession? What does inflation look like the rest of the year? But I think we all would recognize if we looked at our graphs, our expense line is going up and our revenue line is pretty steady. And that doesn't make for a good business model. I don't care who you are. So what you said, that's the stuff we don't talk about, right? You go to NRPA and everybody wants to be a better supervisor or a better this, or I want to learn about the most creative programs, or why aren't we talking about this stuff more? And this is the part that really rubs me. This is what we need to be spending our time on right now. So I appreciate that question. And I would encourage every system to be thinking about what you just said. Just how are we going to sustain what we've got when our costs are going up at the rate that they are?
Yeah, it's almost, it feels inevitably impossible. There's that trajectory you just explained. That's every time, at least the last couple of years, we've gone through a budget cycle. We're getting that conversation. We put in a request. We're thinking about what next year looks like, or the next 3 or 4 years, whatever it may be that you're projecting. And you're hoping that you're not getting slashed for the 15% of healthcare. The 12% of your general liability insurance, whatever that may be. And we've built, my community's built this really great, for our size, capital improvement line. I don't know how long we could sustain that. And I think you're right, just to look at it and try to figure out what are the answers to that. And obviously I don't have them, but it's on the forefront of my mind all the time when we think about where we're going.
Yeah. Well, what do we do? What do we do really well? What can we sustain? And then that should be enough. We're enamored with more is better.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a big problem for a lot of systems. They're going to have to make some very difficult choices. The trade-off conversations are coming at a greater rate than they've ever come before. What should we maintain? What should we keep? What should we do really well? What is our lane where we do this better than anybody else around? And that's what we invest in. And stop trying to be everything to everybody. Who said it was local government's responsibility to build pickleball courts? Who said? Who said it was our responsibility to do this and this and this and this? We cannot do all of these things and do them all well. We just can't. Use sports as a hot button. I love sports, but what is local government's responsibility for sports? Recreational sports, not athletics, not competitive sports. And we've built these mega complexes under the umbrella of economic development, and the math isn't flushing out the way everybody told us it was going to. And so now we have these huge liabilities, and who's the beneficiary of it? I think we're just going to be in a situation to make some very difficult choices moving forward. And those systems that are growing up right now, they have an incredible opportunity to do things really well and not overextend themselves. Systems that have overextended themselves are going to have some difficult choices to make. I think that's just the reality of it all. And, it's hard to say all those things and not come across like a criticism, because it's just how we did what we did.
Sure.
It was flashy and it was fun and it was new and it was exciting. And we're also dealing with electeds who have pressure groups in their faces. They want what they want. They come in, everybody wants to be the hero. Nobody wants to say no. This is all a part of the, the political theater that we experience in, this world. But I think we're taking this stuff a little bit more seriously, and I think it's going to be the best thing that we ever did for the future of this field.
Yeah, Shane, I agree, Jamie. And Shane, before you hop in, we talked about a similar concept maybe a couple episodes ago, and you talked about the pressure groups and who is telling us that we need to put a pickleball complex outdoors, right? The reality is the individual who doesn't understand where maybe the tax dollars come, they're the ones who are telling us that. And Shane, I remember you used this concept of neighboring envy.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so that goes to the elected official. That's the person maybe that's sitting in Shane's seat that, Stacy Anaya is doing this and I've got to keep up with Stacy. But also, maybe more importantly, the resident who lives here and says, why do I have to go to Louisville?
Yep. I think we have found ourselves in the spot we have for good intentions. Either, that city can have one, so we can do one too, right? So there's some sort of envy, like you said, whether it's the electeds or staff or even the citizens. They're like, no, we're bigger than blank. If they have a nice rec center, we can have one too. But more so, I even think we have these quality of life standards. We look at Trust for Public Land score, and we show our playground deserts, and we look at what's our square foot per population that we need to be serving, and these types of things. And it says, oh, well, our rec center's not big enough for this population, so we've got to build a new one. And we don't have any playgrounds on this side of town, so we need to add some playgrounds over there. And I think it's all good intentioned. And sure, the neighborhoods over there appreciate the playground in that space, but you're adding operating costs, right? You're adding operational logistics. Now you've got to send a crew over there a couple times a week, and they've got to carry supplies, and they've got to go fix things, and you've got another liability that'll break down in hopefully 15 years. And in Texas under the summer heat, maybe it's 10 or 12. And so then you put shade, which is more money, but it gets you more return on your investment. And so now it's not a $150,000 project, it's a $220,000 project. And, it's one of those things where I don't think, to Jamie's point, anyone's doing anything poor intentionally, right? I think everyone wants to come in and have an impact on a community, and you want to build these incredible things that make everyone feel proud of where they're at and this cool thing that they have. And I think you can use almost any stat to leverage that it's needed. But I think to my question to you, Jamie, is what does the catastrophic point look like for us? And what do we do as an industry once we hit it?
Well, I think as we continue to see systems say we're on a fiscal cliff, I think as we continue to see systems say we're going to shutter services, we're going to divest of property, we're going to sell brick and mortar assets, we're going to sell parkland, that's about as catastrophic as it gets, particularly the land piece of it. I'm less concerned about selling off brick and mortar. I'm a lot more concerned about selling public lands at this point. And, we have national issues around that as well. Good intentions aren't enough, right? I mean, we can talk about good intentions all day long, but we should have always been doing the math and we haven't. And I think this is an opportunity for us to start paying a little bit more attention to that. And in terms of what we can do, I think we've got to stop, and I know this is not going to be popular. We've got to stop awarding the way we award and reward in our profession. We're focused on the wrong things. You talk about TPL, we shouldn't be looking at acres per thousand. We should be looking at the quality of those acres, right? The levels of service that we offer, not how much we have. That's a problem. We've got awards in our profession. And if you look at award recipients, which I do pretty regularly, there's some plaque on the wall and you look under the covers and you're like, this is not an award-winning system. And that is a generalization. There are some systems doing really good work that are getting pats on the back, but there are also systems that they look really good on the surface and you get, again, you look behind the curtain or you look under the hood and they're fiscal mess. They can't take care of what they have. We've got to rethink, how we basically stroke systems. What are we awarding? What are we incentivizing? What are we celebrating? We're not celebrating the right stuff. And that, again, that's not a popular perspective, but it's one that I firmly believe in because of what I've seen. So we do have some catastrophes. I think the hope is that the more we can have these kinds of conversations and people will listen, pay attention, and think about this stuff, the better off we're all going to be as an industry, as a profession, as a field. But there's some sad storylines out there right now. I mentioned the youth sport complex issues that I have, and I was a beneficiary. I played college ball. I was a college coach. I get it. But again, what's local government's role and responsibility in all of this? When you see a headline in the New York Times in August that says youth sports is a $4 billion industry and private equity is paying attention, we have to take a step back and say, okay, what kind of sports facilities should we be in the business of offering? When Europe has better health indicators than we do, and they think about their outdoor spaces differently than us, we should be paying attention to that because we're not a healthy society, physically or emotionally right now. So catastrophic, there are a lot of indicators right now that we should be really paying attention to, and it's as if we're just dismissing them and saying, well, it's okay, it'll all be fine. It's only going to be fine if we respond and react and we do differently. And that's I think the charge in front of all of us.
If you had a chance, you had to go back into, let's say you thought in your head, the only way I can do this is going back into that director role and running an agency and just baselining a model of how you do this well, whether it's your European concepts and some sustainability and maybe just having some security in ourselves that we're offering the best of what we're doing, and we're not going to worry about what other agencies are doing near us. And if they have a really good rec center, you should just go pay the non-resident rate and call it a day. Like, what does that look like? I mean, what are a couple, and I know you're trying to do that, but a consultant gets to tell Pflugerville what to do. I still have to make it happen. And I'm sure at some point you walk away from Pflugerville going, they didn't listen to a damn thing I said, like what the hell's wrong with them? And so like, what would it look like if you had to go make this sea change to start to happen as a director?
Yeah, great question. I think it's going to vary depending on the system. If it was a reinvention, re-engineering of an existing model, that's one approach. If it's brand new community, different approach, right? Mm-hmm. Much more difficult conversations with existing system that's going to have to change, as opposed to I get to build this from the ground up. I firmly believe we've got to start with community need. And that is not the same as want. That is not the same as interest. That is not the same as desire or expectation. What do the community needs? Shane, you're in a part of the country where water is precious right now. I mean, it's always been a finite resource, and we haven't treated it that way. What are the needs in that community? Are there isolated older adults? Are the mental health indicators for teenagers in the community really concerning? Water is we have a water crisis. Like, what are the needs? That's where you always start, because then you connect the dots. We have become a profession of how many services can we put in our guide? Can we get to 100 pages, as opposed to what are we trying to influence and affect in our community? And then thinking about what services we should be providing and facilitating that align with those needs. Fundamental. To me, it's like, any sport, you learn the fundamentals. You can accelerate skill levels based on those. If I understand the needs in my community and I look at public health indicators and I look at school district data, it's going to start to unveil that for me. What the demographic shifts. We look at demographics on a surface level rather than, wow, older adults in our community are the wealthiest. Why are we giving senior discounts, right? I mean, it's like, let's understand what's happening in our communities first, understand what the needs are that we want to try to affect and influence. We are not going to resolve the unhoused crisis in our society. We are not going to resolve affordable housing, but we can contribute to it in some way by way of what we do and how we do it. So I would always start there. And if it's an existing system, probably the next thing I would do, and again, this is just based on some generalizations, is I want to understand our fiscal reality. I want to understand the condition of our assets. I will ask often in the financial sustainability classes, how many of you have done a conditions assessment? You can count on one hand in every class the number of people that raise their hands high that know we have $100 million of maintenance backlog, or we have $50 million of maintenance backlog. It's not that they don't want to do it or don't want to understand it. It's just not been on the radar. So I would want to understand, what is our fiscal reality? If we have, Tom, 20% increase in expenditures, 3% increase in revenues, 5 years in a row, right? And our gap is growing every year, and I've got 50 million in maintenance backlog. The last thing that I'm going to put on the table is building something new. I'm not going to add anything to the system, and we're going to have educational opportunities with our electeds and appointeds and with our staff. So those two things immediately come to mind, and that's how we only do a handful of master plans a year. We're very discerning. If there's not a fiscal analysis, we're not going to touch it. That's where we always start. What are the needs? And then what's the fiscal reality? Then you can start thinking about aspiration, but you can't vision, right? You can't dream until you understand where you're at in the moment. And I think those two things are really revealing in terms of condition, so that I can be intentional and intelligent and strategic in where I go from here. But again, these aren't what's more popular, having conversations about money or having conversations about new courts or new assets or new programs. I've been using this a lot lately. You've got to take this set of glasses off and put this one on. It's a different lens through which we see our realities, and we see our future, frankly. We keep building stuff when we can't take care of what we have. That's not going to end well.
Yeah.
It's just not going to end well.
This conversation's been fascinating. I think we say this a lot. We could go on for hours right now, trying to be respectful of everyone's time. Hopefully, even as a casual listener, Jamie, you knew that we do this incredible thing called rapid fire, where it's not really rapid. And I don't even know why we call it rapid fire. It's a little more round robin-ish. But we're going to go around and shoot some questions that maybe deal with the industry or maybe they don't, and just get some of your quick thoughts on them. And I will go first. So you get to site visit a bunch of incredible places, I would imagine. Now, you don't take on everyone that reaches out to you, but you get to go and visit some incredible places. What was a place that surprised you? Maybe you didn't know a lot about. You were like, okay, let's go there. But when you got there, like, wow, this is incredible. Food, culture, weather, whatever it was, you were just surprised by it in some way, and why?
Huh. I don't get any time to think about this, do I? Because it's rapid fire.
Rapid.
Rapid.
Wow. There's so many places that come to mind. I love Austin.
Yeah.
Austin's got its fair share of challenges.
Yeah.
But I love Austin. I think it's a cool place. There's, like I said, there's so many places that I could call out, but
Austin is great.
culture, music, We've got family down there, so it's pretty cool. And it's a massive system. It's got a lot of history, a lot of great history there, Barton Springs. So that one comes to mind, and I'm really hopeful that that one is able to take care of itself. So
Yeah, for sure.
Jamie, how big of a Cubs fan are we talking?
oh, huge.
Okay, good.
This I'm
Good,
really
good.
going to date myself, guys. My mom was a rabid Cubs fan, like rabid Cubs fan. So I remember being I was very young, but I can tell you I have vivid memories back to 1969 when I was a tot. And my mom and I, you know, I was an only child. My mom and my father divorced when I was very young. And my mom and I going to Wrigley, sitting in box seats on Mother's Day, taking when
That's
you
fun.
could, kind of the picnic lunch thing. So I've got a little outdoor rec room here full of all kinds of goodies. Ernie Banks jersey with
Oh, wow.
signature. And so, yeah, I would say I'm rabid. I'm paying attention every single day. I've got the MLB audio. So if I'm sitting here at my desk, I'll listen to the game. So, and
Well,
Wrigley's a very special place. And my dogs are Wrigley and Ernie Banks. So,
you
That's
got
cool.
your dogs. You got a two name dog, Ernie Banks. I
yes,
love it.
Ernie
I love
Banks.
it.
He's
Well,
earnest when he's in trouble.
Ernest. Okay, well, that's my secondary question to that was going to be, now you're in Colorado, correct? You live in Colorado. So my question was going to be based on your answer to that. How often do you get back to Wrigley? And did you get to go to a World Series game when they made the World Series?
I did not get to go, but it was the year I actually moved to Salida from Boulder, 2016. I wanted to go desperately. I was in the middle of a really big project, and I was
Okay.
in Massachusetts when they beat the Indians. And I had left my house at 3 in the morning to fly out there, and I fell asleep during the rain delay, and I missed the end of the game.
Oh,
So
no.
that's a tragic story. I get back to Chicago fairly frequently. I'll be back next weekend. My nephew's graduating from University of Illinois Chicago, mechanical engineering,
Okay.
and we're doing a master plan for the Addison Park District. So I get back there fairly frequently, and I try to get to Wrigley every chance I get. So just depends.
Okay. Well, good year right now. My Braves, of course, the Dodgers and the Cubs are topping off the
They are.
NL right now. It's a
They
good
are.
start to the year.
They are. It's fun.
I'll stick with the Cubs talk, and I've been to Wrigley probably 4 times, I think, and all very cool experiences. Do you have one experience at Wrigley that's most memorable?
Oh yeah, it would have been when I was young with my mom.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's special.
Yeah.
that's cool.
I have a couple of scorecards that she actually filled out.
Hmm.
They're framed out there.
Oh, that's
That's
cool.
neat.
So yeah.
That's how you know when you said a rabid fan. If you're filling out the scorecard.
Yep. She paid attention.
Love that. What was the most surprising thing about writing a book that you did not think about when you went into that endeavor?
Oh wow, what a good question. I think how vulnerable you feel. I think of myself sometimes as a person, I don't really consume myself with what people think, but there is a vulnerability to put your thoughts in a thing that you can't take back. And it's on Barnes and Noble and Amazon and bookshop.org, and you have stacks of them, and people are posting on LinkedIn. There's a vulnerability to that, I think. And it's incredibly humbling to know that people want to read what you have to say. So those are feelings that you don't think about, or at least me, I didn't think about it through the journey until towards the end. And then it was like there, it kind of rushed. It was a rush. Like, oh my gosh, and I look at the stack of books with my name on it. It's humbling.
It's like publishing a journal or diary. Like in the moment, it's very
Yeah.
private, and then all of a sudden, it's very public.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, it's very public. I had a really good friend who did some review work, and he said, I told my wife this, and it sounds really morbid, but if I die, my book's done. And I'm like, yeah. Like
Yeah.
if I, fall over tomorrow, I have a book out there, and nobody can take that. You can't take it back. So
Yeah.
That's cool.
yeah.
What was the editing like? Do you present something and then you had someone edit and say, no, what you're saying you don't mean to say, or you didn't say it well, or what was that a pretty tough process as well? Because I've always felt like Hannah's our editor for this podcast, but for all of undergrad and grad school, Hannah read everything I presented, or turned in, and she's like, "No, were you drunk? None of this makes any sense, And I was like, "That's what I felt when I said it." And so, what was that process like?
So then she rewrote everything.
Oh yeah. She's got it. She actually has an undergrad and a master's in recreation, parks, and tourism. Yeah,
there should be a degree in being married to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I requested some reviewers early in the process. What it started out as almost like a textbook, and I'm getting their feedback, and I'm like, I hate it. This is not what I wanted. I didn't want a textbook.
Yeah.
And so they really kind of challenged me to think differently about it, which I appreciated, and I'm incredibly grateful for that.
But it's tough in the moment, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, they'd say, well, and I'm like, no, I get it, and you're right. And I feel like I'm thick-skinned. I grew up in Chicago. I'm like, I don't take things personally. I was just trying to see it through the lens of somebody that could potentially be a reader. And so I kind of did a shift. I did a redirect. And so I went down this different path of storytelling and the metaphor. And I was incredibly pleased with their kind of check and balance early in the process. And then I had a second round of reviewers. And theirs were very much more word choice. They really got into the editorial part of it, or the editing part of it rather, and kind of picked at it. And I said, I want as much critique as you can give me. I mean, if the whole thing is bleeding by the end of it, I'm all right with that. And so that was really great too. So I had a series of 2 reviews. I had a review panel, initial review panel, and then I had kind of the more granular,
Grammar.
final touches. Yeah. So it was good. It was really good. They were incredibly gracious with time and really thoughtful.
Jamie, I don't have a lot of opportunities to talk baseball. And so I'm gonna have fun with this one, if you don't mind. And so we asked a similar question, like it's just nothing like this before, but we've asked similar questions like place so and so here. So and Jay, baseball is a very physical game, but it is also very mental.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot that goes into that. So from the mental perspective, because you don't know anybody's skill set of what they're playing baseball, but I'm going to give you 6 names, and I want you to give us all a position of your choice based on what you know of us in those individuals. So there's 9 baseball positions.
Okay.
And just on the mental side, where are you placing Shane, myself, Jay, yourself, Allie, and Farrell?
Oh,
Where are we going on the
backup
diamond?
positions available?
Is Shane on the bench? I said it's not skill, it's mental. We're talking about the mental side.
wow.
Ken can be the DH.
Yeah, this is a thinker. I know.
Wow. Well, I'm going to start with Allie because she played college ball, and she's lefty, so I'm going to stick her at first base.
Okay.
I'd love to put her at short because it ends up being the coach of the infield, but
Sure.
she's a lefty, and I don't like lefties at short.
Okay.
Farrell, I got to put Miss Personality on the mound because I
She's
think
intimidating.
she'd be really distracting there. She's kind of got this crazy presence about her. Gosh, Shane. Looks like he'd have a cannon for an arm. I'll stick him in right field.
Okay, let's go.
I like it.
All right. Tom, baseball nut, I'll stick you at short. How about that?
Okay, that's fair.
And I think because you and Jay are such close friends, I'm going to put him at second base. So we've got some pretty automatic double plays.
Double play connection right there.
Yeah. And then I'm going to play my position, which is catcher.
I was going to say that's the next. I mean,
yeah, I'm going to
doesn't
put
get much
myself
more
back
important
there.
than catcher. Okay.
Yeah, that was my position. And I loved being behind the plate. Although now that I think about it, if Farrell's pitching, I'm not sure I want to. Although we tend to complement each other quite well. There's a reason that we refer to each other as sunshine and rain. So
That's right.
You need both,
You do.
and they both nourish differently, right? So
I love that.
You'd be like let's see, was it Newt and Kevin Costner's characters in Bull Durham?
Bull Durham, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wild Thing, and yeah. No, I love it. I love that. And I can see that. I mean, if you don't catch, if you've never played the position of catcher, you probably it's unsung. People that are the regular baseball, I'd say the fair weather baseball fans, they don't understand what goes into that. And you're a part of every play. You're calling so much of that baseball game and what happens out on that field. It's,
Yeah.
I can see that.
Well, and I love baseball, and I will watch a game from beginning to end, and I'll have people, friends, or even going to a game. I'm like, don't talk to me during the game. I'm not here to socialize. And they're like, what? And I'm paying attention because
Yeah.
I understand that, but a lot of people don't get it. They're like, this is so boring. I said, no, it's not. It's amazing. Like you're
Yeah.
thinking about what the next pitch is going to be. And, they've got the scouting reports on the hitters and all that crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And if you've never played, I think it's hard to kind of understand that. So, yeah.
Well, I think this might be the longest we've ever gone without talking about food. So I will transition to a food question because it's usually by now already been there and done multiple times. But if we're coming to your city in Colorado, where are you taking us to eat?
If you're coming here,
Yes.
I'm going to take you to one of two places. I'm going to take you either to Chavano or Lago. Chavano is a kind of a tapas place. Both are owned by the same couple.
Okay.
Foodies. They brought in a guy that used to be with a Michelin star restaurant. They're a little more high end here. They're special places where you take special guests.
So we're
Chavano
special.
tapas. They've got some really great kebabs, lamb, chicken, incredible sides. It's all farm fresh. They've got some really great trout from some of the lakes here in Colorado. So
Cool.
I enjoy that place a lot. And then they opened a new place, which is Italian, called Lago. Everything's made from scratch, and some killer dishes there. So probably one of those two places. If you're in Chicago, I'm going to take you to probably the least healthiest places on the planet because it's Chicago food. I'm going to take you to like Giordano's Pizza or Portillo's and get a good dipped beef sandwich, something like that. But here, I'd say Lago or Chavano.
So I have family in Chicago, and my 16-year-old nephew, that's his birthday dinner is Portillo's every year. That's where they go. So
That's awesome.
he can go anywhere he wants, but he chooses Portillo's.
Portillo's. Yeah, it's a staple. It's an institution.
The other thing we haven't talked about really is travel, and we usually try to hit a travel question in round robin. So, where domestically have you not been that you're wanting to go to, and where internationally have you not been but are excited about or hoping to go to at some point and visit?
Oh, wow. International is an easy one. It's either going to be Scotland or Australia. My mother is Scottish. That would be the easiest one. Domestic, I don't know. I mean, I want to get back down to Savannah, Georgia. I've been there, but I went through there, and it's just because they've got a crazy grid system. Their parks got a really rich history of parkland down there. I can't think of, and Alaska. I haven't been to Alaska.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Well, do you have any questions for us?
I don't actually. I'm sure Anna's going to have her hands full with this episode. So
Thank you so much for being on. This has been
This was
great.
great.
Yeah. Thank you.
thank you. It was good to see all of you. And Shane, I know I'll see you in a couple
A
weeks.
week.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah. But
Thank
Tom,
you.
good to see you. Jay, good to see
Yes,
you.
great
Jay,
to
I
catch
can't
up.
remember the last time I saw you. It's been a while.
It has, and hopefully it won't be that long next time. Hopefully in Philly.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, I appreciate your time. I appreciate what you've been doing. I know you have a big fan club, so thanks for what you're doing to bring on different guests and kind of spread the good word.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Jamie. Same.
Thanks for surprising these guys.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Have a good
Talk
one.
to you
Have a
later.
good one.
Take care. Bye.
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 Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I
Everyone
understand
knows
what you were
Jamie.
saying. Yeah, I was going to say there's so many first names. So when you said when you hear this individual's first name,
Sure.
and I don't want to give Shane a big head, but I got to say, Shane, you have one of those names too. You and Jamie, there's not a lot of Shanes and Jamies out there that are doing the park and rec thing. So
No.
now I get what you were saying. If you would have said Jamie, we would have.
Yes,
gotten
you are right. If you would have said Jamie, we would have definitely known.
Yep, absolutely. And she took us to church a little bit today. It was good, and I think it's needed. I think everyone that listens may not 100% agree with her perspective, but I think Jamie has been right on a lot of the stuff that's happening in our industry. And think she probably at times would probably get unfairly painted as someone who is saying stop and don't do anything else. That's not what she's saying. In fact, she said if she was building a park system from scratch, she would have to invest in some things, right? And she wants to. What she's saying is she wants to invest in the things that community needs. And I think she's the Pied Piper of we're building a bunch of things that the community doesn't need, maybe the community wants, or that an adjacent community has, and so now you're envious of it. But it's something that, you know, I've been having conversations with her since my 2020 bond on stuff, and of course I'm bringing her in now, and you know, we've had conversations, I guess 6 years now on some of the stuff, and she was right on way more of the stuff than she was wrong on, for sure. And I you know, the 100th episode released today, and this is our 107th, and you know, this will release a couple weeks after that one or whatever. But I am constantly appreciative of this podcast just for the conversations we get to have, and hopefully some people take something out of this, because if you haven't had the chance to sit in a Jamie session, or you haven't had a chance that we have to talk to her individually, catch her here or there, talk to her one-on-one, she has a totally different perspective, and I think it should be strongly considered when you're making your decisions in your department. You should definitely at least hear her out and think about the principles she's talking about, because if you don't, like Tom was saying earlier, you're afraid one thing's leveling out and the other thing's going like this, and the gap just gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah, you're going to get cut off at the knees at some point, and you got to think about it. And that's a deeper conversation than some, you know, and that's all good stuff. Like Jamie said, it, you know, finances aren't as attractive as a pickleball court, but
Sure.
They are obviously very, very important. Shane, I just have a quick follow-up question. Oh, also for the listener out there, maybe start with the book. You can't get to a session.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to open the book up. I want to definitely. I saw the post on LinkedIn, but I'm so glad we had the opportunity to have the question and answer piece about the book. Quick follow up for you, Shane, because you know I know when we have an individual on, it's delicate. But now that Jamie's not on there, I do. What is she exactly doing for you guys? What do you got? What do you got, Jamie and 110 working on?
So they're doing a complete audit of our financial offering, our, you know, what our
So
cost
financial
recovery models.
analysis.
Yep, complete. And then with the new rec center opening up, we brought her on too late, to be honest, to help us set some of the costs for year one, and projections. But she is going to audit where we're at, and if we need to make large corrections in year two. And we're bringing her in. We're going to show her the park system. We're going to show her that we replaced a lot of playgrounds and did a lot of maintenance and repair. But was that the right thing? You know, I've been on here and I've bragged about lowering the average age of our playgrounds and adding shade to all of them. But I was doing that because that was what we wanted and the community wanted. I don't know if that's what the community needed, you know. And so and now that we've done it and invested in that, how do we vanguard making sure they last as long as possible, so it's not a capital improvement that he's got to do for the next 15 years. And so,
well, in 20 years when they all reach the end of their lifespan at the same time,
I know.
You're going to be long gone, but Pflugerville's going to be figuring something out.
Who was that jerk that just saddled us with?
There goes that legacy.
Yep.
The legacy will be he just ripped us off. We're spending all this money now because of him.
That's right. Yeah. And I think to your point, you know, I will feel like Jamie felt about writing her book. She's going to come into my park system that I've spent 7 years developing. You know, like this isn't year one for me. I didn't build all this, but I've replaced a lot of it, and I've added a lot of new things, and I've got a $100 million bond I'm wrapping up, and we got a $65 million bond we're taking to the voters, and Jamie's going to feel some sort of way about that, and I'm going to hear about it. That's the great thing about Jamie is if Jamie's thinking it, she's going to tell you about it, you know. So
that was fun. She was great.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I hope you both enjoyed the baseball diamond question, and what I did take from that. Love being in the infield with Jay. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Jay, I want to say you played
the
some furthest
base. Out.
I was center field.
You were center.
I miss playing ball. I really do. That was, you know, we don't talk about baseball much on here, but I mean, I played baseball all through high school. Was planning on playing in college, and I actually got hurt during the tryouts when I was trying out for Brockport, so could not go any further with it.
Yeah, I could see that. Captain of the outfield. So center field. I was just going to say, based on Jamie's assessment, we are in the market for a third baseman, a left fielder, and a center fielder. I mean, we might shift Jay to center, so maybe a second baseman, center fielder, but we're going to have to fill those positions eventually.
If I'm on the field, we're in a market for whatever I'm doing too.
Well,
Let's
we
be
could
honest.
shift you to DH too, you know.
I think a first base coach or third base coach is probably what I should have been, or bullpen coach or something.
Bench coach.
There you go. That's
The
where
thing
I
is, with a third base coach, you need to be very quick to react, and you don't usually text back, call back quickly, and you got to be attentive to all those details, man.
bullpen coach. I don't take a lot of phone calls though.
No. No, maybe you could be the coach, or in most cases the parent, but the coach that maybe brings like the oranges and some monsters. You know, you bring us the goodies.
I would excel at that.
The
Let's
energy
go.
drinks.
Beef sticks, nerds.
Let's go.
Big League Chew.
Sunflower seeds.
Well, and we learned that Allie was an athlete in college. I don't even think we knew that. I didn't ask her because I'm terrible at this.
You did botch her intro today, just so you know.
Yeah.
I told her I was
wrong college and everything. I'm not sure how you get that wrong.
I got it right on the bounce though. I don't know.
So, you know, there's this thing out there, and I don't know, it's email, it's phone, that you communicate back and forth, and you can ask them, hey, is there anything you want me to cover?
She reached out to me Thursday and said, are we still doing this thing? And I said, oh yeah, we are.
Thursday night at like 8:00.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. So I was like, I'm sorry, I'm terrible at this. Here's
She's
the
gonna have
link.
so much fun working with you in Pflugerville.
Oh, she barely works with me. Like she just kind of goes straight to Jeff at this point, which is, you know, her best pathway. So, which is what we should do here. We should bring Jeff on, and I shouldn't be doing this anymore. So, all right, folks. Well,
Good stuff.
that was 107. Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time, everyone.
Till next time.
Thank you.
See ya.
Here at RecLess, we love to give back to the community that we're so passionate about. We do that by providing scholarships to professionals to attend conferences they may not otherwise be able to attend. That's where you come in, sponsorships. If you are interested in a sponsorship, we'd love to connect with you. So this spot could be yours. Contact us today at recklesspod@gmail.com or check us out at recklesspod.com for more details.
This episode of RecLess wouldn't have been possible without the support of our agencies and our better halves, Melissa Salatino, Lindsay Tryon, and our executive producer, Hannah Mize. We also want to thank our director of hashtags and swag, Rooney Taylor, and our team of junior producers, Luke, James, Elizabeth, Grant, and Harper. Stay up to date on all things RecLess by following all of our social media, and like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast to ensure you don't miss an episode. See you next time on RecLess.